He used to stay up at night staring at his phone, waiting for replies that never came, refreshing chats that were already dead, and asking himself the same painful question over and over again: why am I never enough for the people I want? If you've ever begged for love in the wrong places, chased people who kept you small, or felt lonelier inside a relationship than when you were single, this story about self-worth and loneliness is for you. For years, Ethan measured his value by how other people treated him. If they replied fast, he felt important. If they ignored him, he felt worthless. He tolerated mixed signals, empty promises, and half-hearted efforts because the thought of being alone felt scarier than staying in something that hurt. It started slowly. In one relationship, his partner criticized him as a joke, made him feel too needy whenever he asked for basic respect, and pulled away whenever he tried to talk about his feelings. When he brought up something that hurt him, they twisted it until he felt like he was the problem. Apologies were rare. Guilt and confusion were normal. He told himself, no relationship is perfect, and stayed. In friendships, he found himself always being the one who checked in, who listened, who showed up, while others only called when they needed something. When he tried to set a boundary, he was told he was overreacting or too sensitive, so he stopped setting boundaries and started shrinking instead. Bit by bit, these toxic relationships chipped away at his confidence and self-respect until he quietly believed a dangerous lie. This is the best I can get. The loneliness was worst at night. He would lie next to someone who was scrolling their phone, barely talking to him, and still feel more alone than when his bed was empty. On social media, he saw couples posting photos with captions like "my forever" and "my safe place," and wondered why his relationships never felt like that. Deep down, he knew he was begging for love, over-explaining, over-giving, overstaying just to earn crumbs of affection. But whenever he thought about walking away, fear screamed louder. What if no one else wants you? What if this is your last chance? That fear kept him stuck in cycles that were slowly destroying how he saw himself. The turning point came on a day that didn't look dramatic from the outside. They had another argument that ended with him apologizing for his own feelings. He went home, collapsed on the couch, and opened his chat history. As he scrolled, he saw months of him explaining, pleading, compromising, and writing long messages to someone who replied with short sentences or silence. He saw how many times he had tried to talk, only to be made to feel crazy or too much. His chest tightened as he realized something important. It wasn't just that they were toxic. It was that he had abandoned himself to keep them. For the first time, he asked a different question, not, "Why don't they love me right?" but "Why do I keep choosing people who don't?" He remembered reading that healing from toxic relationships isn't just about leaving the other person. It's about rebuilding self-worth and trust with yourself. So he did something simple but brave. He wrote a list on a piece of paper titled, "What I Deserve." At first his hand shook. Then the words started to come: respect, honesty, effort, consistency, feeling safe to speak, being allowed to have needs, not being punished for having emotions. As he read that list back to himself, he realized how little of it he had been receiving. He didn't feel dramatic anymore. He felt heartbroken for the version of him who had accepted so much less than what he deserved. Leaving wasn't easy. Toxic relationships rarely end neatly. There were tears, guilt, and late-night doubts. He worried he was being too harsh. He wondered if he was making a mistake. But he also knew that staying was slowly erasing him. So he made the hardest choice. He ended the relationship and went full no contact, no texts, no just checking in, no stalking their profiles. At the same time, he created distance from friendships that only drained him. Each goodbye felt like losing a piece of his identity, because for so long he had defined himself by who he was attached to. But underneath the grief, something small and steady began to grow, the sense that he was finally choosing himself. The first weeks alone were rough. The silence was loud. Some nights he cried, missing even the broken version of connection he had before. His brain replayed old conversations, sometimes romanticizing the good moments, sometimes drowning in anger. This is where many people run back. He almost did. But instead of running back to toxicity, he decided to run inward. He started therapy, where he learned that the cruel voice in his head, "You're too needy. You're lucky anyone even puts up with you," didn't actually belong to him. It was an echo of how he had been treated. He practiced challenging that voice and replacing it with gentler truths. My needs are not a burden. Wanting respect doesn't make me needy. Walking away from what hurts me is self-love, not selfishness. He also began reconnecting with himself outside of relationships. Who was he before he started begging for love? What did he enjoy when he wasn't monitoring someone else's mood or waiting on their replies? He journaled about the parts of himself he had muted to keep others comfortable, his opinions, his hobbies, his boundaries. He returned to old passions, joined a club, started moving his body, and explored new places by himself. At first, doing things alone felt awkward. But as time passed, being alone stopped feeling like proof that he was unlovable and started feeling like proof that he could be okay with his own company. Loneliness didn't vanish overnight, but it softened as he began to like the person he was spending time with. Slowly, his standards changed. When new people came into his life, he noticed red flags, earlier casual disrespect, jokes that hurt, hot and cold behavior, disappearing acts. Instead of trying harder to win them, he stepped back. He stopped making excuses for other people's treatment. He stopped believing that any attention was better than no attention. He realized that healing self-worth meant this. Not everybody gets access to his heart. From that place, he began to build healthier connections, friendships based on mutual effort, honesty, and vulnerability, not just convenience or drama. Months later, he looked back and saw a completely different pattern. He was no longer begging for love in the wrong places. He was no longer staying in rooms where his soul felt small just so he wouldn't have to face an empty chair. He still had moments of doubt. He was human, but now, when loneliness hit, he didn't run to the nearest toxic comfort. He checked in with himself, reached out to safe people, and reminded himself of the truth he had earned through struggle. I am worthy of love and belonging, even when I'm not chasing anyone. If you're re-listening to this and seeing your own life in Ethan S. clinging to people who don't choose you back, accepting disrespect because you're scared to be alone, feeling lonelier with someone than by yourself, understand this. Begging for love doesn't mean you are weak. It means someone taught you to doubt your worth. You can learn something new. You can walk away from toxic love. You can rebuild trust with yourself. Start where he started. Write your own list of what you truly deserve. Then begin acting like that list is real, even if you don't fully believe it yet. Step by step, distance yourself from what breaks you and move toward what makes you feel safe, seen, and respected, even if that what is just you at first. This story comes from Will Power Stories, a channel for people who are tired of chasing love that hurts and are finally ready to choose themselves. Here, you'll hear powerful motivational stories about toxic relationships, self-worth, loneliness, healing, discipline, money, and real-life transformation, told in simple English for a United States audience that wants real change, not just pretty quotes. If you're ready to stop begging for love in the wrong places and start building a life where you feel enough, subscribe to Willpower Stories, turn on notifications, and let every new story remind you that choosing yourself is where everything truly begins.